Hey, 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 self storage. Welcome to January 2025. This is our first episode of the year, our fourth season of
Oh my
Gabfocus.
gosh.
No, fifth. Sorry. Fifth season of Gabfocus. Crazy. Last year
Mm.
was incredible. We had the most viewers we've ever had. We broke every record as far as like simultaneous viewers, all of that kind of stuff. Already so far this year, it looks like we're off to a fantastic start. So happy New Year, my dear friend Melissa.
Happy New Year. January's almost over.
It's basically February. It's just so
Yes,
weird.
basically.
We were just talking during lobby talk how we're still writing 2024. Um, we're writing. So
Before we know it, it's going to be Christmas again. And yeah,
yep. No, Vera still
so
asks
crazy.
us, "Hey, can we go? Can we drive and see Christmas lights?" And we're like, "Oh, honey, Christmas is over."
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it will be here before we know it. But y'all, welcome to our 2025 January episode. We've got a very special guest, a dear friend, and someone I get to see just about every day. We have kids the same age. He does a lot of SEO. Craftsmanship here, not only for Storage Bug, but also for the 2,000 plus facilities that are on our platform. Welcome to the Gap Focus stage, David Austin. How are you, man?
Doing good, Tommy. Excited to get to talk about SEO.
I'm excited for you to be here, man. I think it's going to be a good time. So, as far as intros go, so David, tell us about your journey to self storage. What do you do on a day to day basis? And honestly, what's your favorite thing about SEO? We'll start there.
Oh, right. My journey to self-storage started with you. I had not, I had stored once in one facility somewhere. It was not great. I never was interested in doing it again. But yeah, I was friends with Alex Keller, who works here, and y'all had a position open up as for a content writer. Started there. Did that for a while and really started to get into the SEO part of it, trying to figure out how to make everything work. And my favorite thing about doing SEO is that trying to it's like a puzzle, right? Trying to figure out you have a whole bunch of different variables and you don't really know how much weight to put behind each one of them. So it's almost like a game of hidden knowledge, like poker, except for Google has all the cards and you don't know the value of any of them, but you still have to win the game. But the good part is you don't have to beat Google; you just have to beat everyone else that's playing. Yeah, I'm the SEO manager now, so I'm responsible for making sure every website that we make is up to SEO best practices and does the best it can in its market.
Nice.
Love that, man. Well, I'm excited to have you as our special guest today. What a great way to kick off the season, honestly. Ansley, by the way, I just saw your question. You asked if we can hear your computer audio. No. The only three people you should hear today is Melissa, David, and myself. And you should only be able to see us as well. So we can't see you either. So you're totally good. If this is your first Gap Focus, welcome. Honestly, I do think you chose a really good one. Gap Focus, of course, is brought to you by our teams here at Storage Pug in Knoxville, Tennessee, and Lighthouse Storage Solutions in Chattanooga. So the session set up like this. We'll go for about an hour. Melissa and I will take turns asking questions that our dear friend Garrett curated for us. Thank you, Garrett, behind the scenes. But we'll also ask your questions that you submit to the Q&A. We already have a great one that we stashed from Lobby Talk from a guy named Jaden. It's right there about review, so we're going to get to that. Also, here's today's agenda. We're going to like break down SEO. We got some great takes from the audience during Lobby Talk, but I'm excited to hear from the expert himself what SEO is, what's going on with the latest SEO updates, and then yeah, how can I actually use SEO to do what my business is supposed to do, which is rent more units. So David, without further ado. Let's jump in, man. So, we asked the audience, so let's ask you, what is SEO?
SEO stands for search engine optimization, and it's basically a catch-all phrase we use for a whole bunch of different practices and tactics to convince Google and other search engines, but mostly Google, that your website is the best answer for whatever the searcher has typed in. So that means you're not always looking to rank higher, though that can be an important thing. Um, Google is trying to find the best website to answer whatever the searcher has typed in. Sometimes that's your website. But if they're searching Mexican restaurants, it's not your website, it's something else. So one thing I see people worry about too much is ranking highly for general key terms. Like, if you're in Dallas and you want to rank well for storage units in Dallas, it's like it would be great if you could, but you're also competing against like 1,000 other storage facilities, including the
Right.
REITs, and that's going to be really hard to do and probably not the best use of your time because A, you're not likely to succeed, and B, if you were to succeed, it would be you would have to have spent so much money that it's not worth trying to show up for that term. So instead, SEO for that particular example would be showing up in whatever the neighborhood of Dallas, right? Whatever little sub thing. Like we're in Knoxville, but we're in Cedar Bluff. So if I had a storage facility here, I would be more concerned about ranking for Cedar Bluff than I would for Knoxville, because that's the area I'm in. That's what people who need my services are going to be looking for.
And
We know
that's
it's, oh,
really,
go ahead, Melissa. Yeah.
go ahead. I was going to say that's kind of what makes SEO different for storage as opposed to
Mhm.
SEO in other areas, retail, whatever it may be. So, can you talk about how SEO actually matters in the storage world specifically? Like you were starting to touch on it there.
Yeah, absolutely. SEO matters for every self-storage business because, according to the SSA demand study from 2023, which is a bit dated, but it's also the best info that I've found, about half of your rentals are going to come from Google or some similar search engine. And Google has, even though they're losing a little bit of market share to the new AI stuff, they're still at about 91%, 92% of the search market. So when I'm talking about Google, know that I almost always mean plus all that other stuff. But Google's just so big that
Yeah.
they're the one I think of. But about half your rentals or half of self-storage rentals come through a website. So they come from Google. And if you don't pay any attention to SEO at all, Google will not think that your website is a good answer for those searchers. And you'll lose out on, again, about 50%. I think it was something like 46 exactly, of potential tenants. Obviously, that's a big deal.
Okay. You had
David,
a question, Tommy.
yeah, well, no, Cheryl put in the comments there, right? So I think she was commenting on what you said, David. Like, if we're in Knoxville, right, and ranking number
Mhm.
one or even top 10 for a term like, let's say, storage units in Knoxville, Tennessee, or self-storage in Knoxville, Tennessee, may not actually be that beneficial, right? But Cheryl's comment is, yeah, that actually doesn't apply if you live in a small town, right? What if the town
Mhm.
is the neighborhood?
Mhm.
So can you speak to that a little bit, David? Like how does the strategy shift or change depending on the size of the market or the size of the town for each of these facilities?
Yeah, if you're in a small town, like I grew up in Dandridge, which is a little bit outside of Knoxville, there's probably, I think I last checked, there's like 5 storage facilities that are technically in Dandridge, and they're kind of spread out. So if you're one of those facilities, you really do need to be ranking well for self-storage units or storage units in Dandridge. Um, it's but the goal is still the same. You want to find those people that are close enough to rent from you, not just
Mhm.
trying to find those people. Because if you have a storage facility
Right.
in Dandridge and you like gear all of your website to ranking for self-storage units in Knoxville, even if you succeed, which Google has significant incentives to make sure they don't show you for Knoxville because that's not where you are. But even if you manage to override that, the people that find you are going to be like, oh, well, I'm not going to drive out there. That's 30 minutes away. Why would I? I would go past 12 storage facilities to get to you. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think
And
conventional
But
wisdom.
absolutely, if you're in a
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, David. Sorry. Finish your thought. Yeah.
go ahead. Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you're in a small town, that should be the one of the terms you're trying to use, trying to focus on is that town name.
Yeah, no, I love that. But I think, conventional wisdom in self-storage at least, and especially folks who've been in the industry for a gazillion years, but maybe there are folks who are new amongst us, right? Is like, yeah, I think the average customer is only willing to drive 1 to 3 miles, maybe 5, right? The average customer, right? And so I think this is why demographic area and geographic location matters so much when it comes to SEO, and why the search engines also know that, right? Google and Bing and all these other search engines, they know that if you're on this side of town, you're not likely to go visit something that's 20 minutes away, especially on your way there, you might see 12 other facilities. Which is often the case for a town like Knoxville, and we're not even the biggest. Right? I mean, we have a lot of self-storage facilities, but we're not Nashville, we're not Atlanta, right? And I think Chattanooga fits into that same market as Knoxville. It's like, yeah, it's hard to go to the grocery store and not drive by a handful of facilities on the way there and home.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, if you're in a really rural area, you might actually have to market to an entire valley to be able to get everybody. And it may be outside of your technical city limits. So it's really, like you said earlier, David, it's really a game to play for each individual operator and where their facility's located as to how that game gets played.
Love it.
And where are you actually drawing your potential tenants from, that's who you need to be marketing to and nobody else. You need to be
Yes.
specific on that.
Love that. Yeah, I think David said demographic area is very important. I agree. And I think part of that is not just knowing, knowing who your customers actually are, right? There
Yeah.
are scenarios, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I know there are scenarios where like you might want to actually do a 20-mile target for different reasons. Maybe you're the only name in that entire area that offers that specific thing. Right. Some
Right.
things that come to mind. We were talking about New Orleans, Melissa. Things that come to mind is like wine storage.
Yeah.
People who love wine need wine storage.
Yeah.
And if you're the only name in town that offers that, I don't know what the exact temperatures are for wine storage, but if you're the only name in town who offers that type of climate control, then yeah, for that specific niche, you might, you can afford to broaden who you're reaching out to, right?
Exactly.
And so knowing what
Yep.
you offer, knowing who your customers are and what they care about. Oh, there we go. So thank you. 45 degrees for wine storage. Thank
Wine
you.
doesn't stay that long in my house for it to matter what temperature it's at. It's okay.
There you go. I
It's
love
all
that.
good.
Yeah. Also, real quick, I want to give a big shout out to my girl, Catherine Briley here. Love all your questions. I'm excited to get into it. Honestly, one of them is how do you stay updated with the latest SEO trends is a beautiful segue to our next
Yeah.
set of conversation topics. So like David, talk to us. What are some of these latest changes that you've seen that impact self-storage? Let's give us like a last 18 months, right? And then kind of like that's question A. Question B is like, how does one stay up to date with some of these trends and updates?
All right. Well, the big trend in SEO, like the big news item in SEO over the past 18 months is definitely AI, right? You get Google overviews, AI overviews. I'm sure you've all seen that. You type pretty much any question into Google, and Google's going to go ahead and try to answer it for you instead of sending you to a website like they used to do. Now, this makes Google money because the searcher stays on Google and they get to serve ads instead of then sending them to your website where, especially if it was an informative website, then that website would make the money. So AI overviews, ChatGPT, Claude, all these different things. That's the biggest change. Google really does not want to send you traffic if it does not have to. So if you have a blog, if you had a successful blog as a storage operator, I would expect your traffic to have declined significantly over the last 18 months. And we'll get into all that a little bit deeper later on. The other things that have changed in the last 18 months, the map pack, the local pack, where if you do a local search, it pops up a little map with your area and all the answers in that area. That has become way more prominent. Google was even trying something not long ago where they had two map packs. Thank you, Tommy. They had a map pack and then a couple of organic results and then another map pack later on. Because for any sort of local search, which means a search that is, if I want lunch and I search Mexican restaurants, I need something close to me. I don't need to learn about Mexican restaurants. I need something within driving distance so I can get back before Tommy notices I'm gone. So that's a local search. For storage, all of your tenants are making a local search. even if they're like in a different town and they're moving to your town, they still care about where your facility is.
Mhm.
So we know that if a map pack result shows up, if this map that you're seeing on the screen now shows up, that is going to get the vast majority of clicks. Um, it used to be it used to get slightly over half. Now we again it's changing very quickly. We don't have any like hard data, but everyone in the SEO world agrees if a map pack shows up, that's what's getting clicked. You'll get 10% to ads, you'll get maybe 20% to organics, but the rest of it, the majority is going to go to here because this is
Mhm.
just more helpful, right? Google tracks everything. Google tracks every Chrome user click, every, tracking tag on every ad. It knows what people are doing. And so when you look and you see, oh, this maps is huge, right? They've got ads. Obviously, you see Google's ads and you're like, okay, that's so Google can make money. But then the map pack is just huge. And you don't get to organic results unless you scroll past all these other things. And that's because Google knows that's what people want.
Mhm.
So that has been a change in the last 18 months is how prominent the map pack is. And that's very helpful for storage operators, honestly.
Honestly, it's in our world, y'all. I think it's the great equalizer, right? So like if you
Hmm.
know, let's look at the ads, right? So I intentionally scrolled past the ads, so well, because Dave was talking about the map pack. But when I Googled, because here I am, storage units, Knoxville, Tennessee, or honestly, if I do like storage units near me, right? I think that's the most frequently searched term. So let me just do that term, right? Um, Google's gonna give people ads, and as you can see here, it's difficult because maybe you don't have the budget for ads, right? Maybe you don't have the expertise even, right? Or maybe you just had a poor experience running ads for all the different reasons, right? And then of course the Mac pack, and then let's scroll down to the third section of Google, which is organic results, right? And I think this is what David was saying. It's like, yeah, it's going to be tough to compete with Extra Space in most markets. They're going to likely be number one, two, or three in almost all markets that they're in. And so, like, David, speak to that, right? So, like, why is that? Like, why would Google care about ranking Extra Space or Morningstar, who has 100 plus properties, NSA Storage, who have 800 plus properties? Like, why, and U-Haul, who has thousands of properties? Why are these websites taken? Why does Google, care to put these websites before some of the more locally ran or individually ran storage websites?
So there's a lot of different things that go into that. But the number one is they're just massive, right? They've got a ton of people that visit their site. They've got a ton of people that link to their site. They've got a lot of different options on this page. You'll see that this page is actually it's a splash page for all of Knoxville. It's not specifically for a single location. So any single location is already getting outmuscled here.
Mhm.
Um, so Google has more confidence in them than they do in you, right? If
Mm,
this you being a hypothetical single operator, it's sort of like the small local paper versus the New York Times. The New York Times has been around for a lot longer, way more people read it. And if you're not sure which one is correct, and this is obviously kind of a tortured metaphor, but if you're not sure which one is most useful, you go for the one that's bigger and has more institutional weight behind it.
Mhm.
Now, another interesting thing on this particular one is Google is serving these results here because anyone who gets here has already scrolled past the map pack. So if the map pack did not answer your question, Google says, oh, okay, maybe you don't want an individual location. Maybe you don't want a store to purchase from. Maybe you don't want a local result. Maybe you're researching. So here are some websites that have a ton of different locations on them, as opposed to a single location or a two or three location. That Extra Space had like what, 20 different locations in Knoxville.
hmm
So Google says, okay, if you didn't like our map pack results, here's 20 more options for you to browse through because that's what they found to be most useful. So again, if you're a single location or a three location or a five location, you can't really compete with that because you can't offer that same level of choice to the customer
I love
or
what
the
you said,
searcher.
Tommy, about how the map pack is the equalizer now because we can't compete with Extra Space. You don't have 30 locations in one city that you're trying to market. You don't have websites that are nationwide reaches with all of these resources. But if you're the storage unit near me, and I'm searching for a storage unit near me, suddenly Google goes, "Oh, well, this one, it regardless of size, because their search was so specific to location that suddenly your single location makes more sense than extra space down the street." So absolutely the great equalizer. I love it. This is the true way where the single operator can compete online with the big boys, no excuses. You can do it, and
Yep.
it's really very simple to do.
Yeah, Todd, and honestly, I know Todd, you asked this in the chat, but I'll go ahead and ask it here because we're on this topic now, right? Is like the question is like, how do you actually stay on top of the map pack, right? Is it just reviews? Is it keep your info to date? Like David, I know we're jumping ahead of the schedule, but like get into that for us. Like,
Oh, yeah.
how does one, now that we've established the map pack or Google Business as the great equalizer, how do I actually use it as a tool to get more traffic to my website?
So there, Todd, you did call out a couple of the main things, right? It's the info needs to be up to date. The info needs to be accurate. So that's when somebody comes to me and is like, "Hey, I need some help with my SEO. My Google Business Profile is not showing up well." The first thing you look at is all the information accurate, right? Because if you have one address listed on your website and a different address listed on your Google Business Profile, all of a sudden you're not going to show up at all because Google doesn't know where you are. Google doesn't care about you. They care about the person who searched. So if your Google Business Profile, if they're not certain where you are, then they're not going to risk pissing off this customer of theirs, this searcher of theirs, by sending it to some random place. So anyways, that's a long way to say consistency is the most important thing. Next is getting reviews. Number of reviews is important. Quality of reviews is important. So 5-star better than 2-star. Frequency of reviews is something that a lot of people miss. If you get if somebody drops 500 5-star reviews on you, that's fantastic. You'll probably get, taken down for botting, but we'll pretend that doesn't happen. But then 6 months later, you've gotten no new reviews, or you've only gotten 1 or 2, then Google starts to think, oh, maybe this place isn't as good as it used to be. If you're looking for a restaurant to go to and the place you're looking at has not had a review in 6 months or has only had bad reviews in the last 6 months, you start thinking maybe I don't want to go there. Maybe I'll go somewhere else. So frequency of reviews is important. You need to constantly be getting new reviews. It's not good enough just to get a huge number. Another thing that's important is that's kind of harder to control, but also easier to control, is making sure people have a good experience on your website. Like I said, Google's tracking everything. If people go into your website, if you're number 1 on the map pack, people click in and then go, "Oh, wait, this isn't what I wanted," or "Oh, this facility does not look good," or "These are all stock photos," or even their prices are too high, right, compared to somebody else. And then they click out. Google tracks that. Google says, "Oh, I sent them here. They bounced. They came out. They didn't find what they were looking for. This may not be a good answer for this query in the future." So that's another thing that's very important. But reviews are obviously the headline, consistency in reviews.
So while we're talking about reviews, Jaden has one in the Q&A here. What's the best way to get reviews for a new facility? Requesting them hasn't worked.
David, do you mind if I take this?
Go for it.
I'm gonna get on my soapbox, y'all. So Darby and I have and Lane too have been on this tour in the last 18 months of teaching people how to get reviews. And one of the most common I won't say pushback, but one of the most common stucks that we get is, "Oh, I ask customers and they never leave a review," right? I can only get lucky, right? And so what I do is I say, "Hey, where are you located?" Right? And let me pull up a city. Give me a good city. That's not Knoxville. Anyone? David. Hickson. There we go. Hickson, Tennessee, right? So let's say I pull up storage units in Hickson, right? And I pull up like, okay, let's look at FreeUp, right? FreeUp's crushing it, right? I'm picking on Crabtree because they only have 3 reviews, right? Let's say I'm talking to Crabtree and Crabtree's like, "Man, Tommy, I ask all my customers, right? And they tell me, oh, I don't have a Google account or whatever, right? And so I pull up Hickson. I'm like, yo, let's look at other facilities in Hickson. So you're saying only people who don't leave reviews rent from you, and all these other people choose not to rent from you, right? And so like oftentimes it comes down to this, y'all. It's consistency. And so Darby and I are giving this talk in a few months at ISS. We're doing a big marketing workshop, and what it comes down to, and I think I saw Brian just say it, and I think Melissa, you said it too in the chat, right? Oh, Kelly's like, hey, hear from Free Up. Let's go, Kelly. Let's go. So y'all know the drill.
Nice.
Kelly, honestly, put it in the comments what y'all do, because I know a little bit of what y'all do, because we know the Free Up brand quite a bit. There's a couple Free Up stores that are in the Pug Pack. But like, yeah, at the end of the day, it comes to this. You got to first deliver an experience that's worthy of a 5-star review. So like, it sounds so reductive to say that, but like, make sure that you're like giving a 5-star experience. And then once you do it, you ask. But once you ask, you make it easy. Like, yo, Melissa, if you had a good time today, I'd love a review. It would make me look good, right? In fact, what I'm gonna do, here's a QR code that you can scan, or if it's easier for you, let me text you the link. And you can just click on the little cute link and boom, it takes me straight to Google, right? And so here's the script that here we go. So Kelly says, train and coach managers to ask every time, emails and text requests after move in and positive experience move outs. That's it. Like, that's literally it. And so here's an easy script that every manager can train on, that you don't have to be like a major extrovert to do this. You shouldn't be salesy, because it actually is more effective when you're not salesy. But literally step one is like, yo, Melissa, how was your experience today? Was I able to solve all your problems?
Everything was great.
Oh,
It was
I love that.
amazing.
Man, I love to hear that, man. I love to hear that everything was amazing. But hey, let me tell you what, it would help me out a ton if you left me a review on Google. In fact, let me send you a link right now, right? And so what I did there was I waited to confirm and affirm with Melissa that she had a good experience.
Yes.
And then once she did, I said, yo, let me give you this link, because it's going to make me look good. Notice I didn't make this is not about the business. You're not reviewing the business, right? You're ultimately reviewing the customer service experience that was delivered, right? So let's look at some of these reviews, and you'll see, you'll see a lot of these have to do with the manager, right? Carrie was fantastic, right? Carrie's amazing. Honestly, Carrie was great. Like, Carrie is doing this script.
Carrie is doing a great job.
Yeah. So that at the end of the day, that's what it is. Of course, you can use technology to make it easier with text messages, with QR codes. I saw a couple people mention Bird Eye. There's another platform called Storage Reach, which is a great new tool that basically automates a lot of this process. But what makes it extremely effective is that personal ask. The consistency. So you're not asking 1 in 10 customers, you're asking 10 in 10 customers, because only 20% might leave you a review, right? And so you want to do it to literally every customer. Now, I did see a comment in either in the chat or the Q&A that said that they waive the admin fee if you leave a review. So that's always been a no-no, but now it's officially a no-no. As of August, it's now illegal to pay or incentivize a customer to leave a review. Those are now categorized as false testimonials and fake reviews. So don't do that. You can actually be reported, and historically, if you were reported, Google would take action against you, which means that they remove your reviews, or worse, they delete your Google business profile and suspend you. But now the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, has also ruled that it's illegal. So it's not only a terms of service break with Google, you can actually get fined to do this.
And that's incentives of any kind, whether it's waiving a fee or direct payment, or I'm going to enter you in a contest or anything at all. Do not incentivize. Instead, wow them with your service and ask for a review.
There we go.
Period. And that's it.
And if you're an owner in this audience, right, you can incentivize your managers all day long, right? And say, yo, for every review you get me, $50. It's worth
Yep.
it, by the way. Or
Yep.
get for every 100 reviews you give me, I'll give you $2,000 or whatever you want to do. Some of our we've had guests on Gap Focus, Heather from Spacebox, for example. The way they do it is for every 100 reviews that the store gets, they do a $1,500 bonus for the store managers. Then
Yep.
they divvy it up.
And those reviews pour in from their
Yeah.
managers because they are on it. They
I'm
have a
not going to get
real,
out of bed for a $20 gift card, but I will for $1,500.
yes,
And
yes,
that
all
is
day.
legitimate all day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And make sure they're legitimate reviews. Only ask your actual
yes,
customers. Don't ask your
yes,
friends and family and neighbors and, college roommates. Don't do that.
no,
Ask your customers. So,
yes, because you have enough customers to do it. Most
yeah.
facilities have 100 plus units that are rented,
Hmm.
right? So you have
Hmm.
enough customers to warrant getting a bunch of reviews. And
Yep.
last thing on reviews, and David, I'm gonna get back to asking you questions. Is the last thing here is like what David said is spot on. Frequency does matter. Getting a
Yeah.
bunch of reviews in a short period of time, while cool, won't give you the same long-term benefits as having a routine 15 or 20 reviews every month rhythm. That actually helps you quite a bit more than getting 100 reviews all in one week. So David, a question I asked you earlier, I don't want to skip past, is like, how do you stay up to date with all this? I mean, I know you are a very well-read individual, but like if I'm a self-storage owner, operator, manager, how do I stay up to date with these trends, and how do I make sure that I'm doing what I can to know everything I need to know about SEO?
So this is a little bit self-aggrandizing, but the best place to look would be the Storage Bug blog, right? Like me and Robert, um, Matt, Tyler, we're all staying on top of this. The content team is we're reading everything that comes out. We're trying to suss out what actually matters for self-storage. So the Storage Bug blog is a great spot. The next place I would recommend would be White Spark blog. It's Darren Shaw. He's a very well-known voice in the SEO community, and he does specifically local SEO. If you're
Hmm.
going to read anything about SEO that doesn't come from from me, make sure it is local, right? You could follow all the advice and like be a fantastic SEO for organic or global or informational stuff, and that's not going to get you any more renters at all. It's just going to be a whole lot of time you spent reading about things that are interesting, but maybe not helpful.
Yep, love that. Yeah, I just put the
Okay.
link to that White Spark blog for everyone to bookmark. Lots of great, helpful content.
Okay, so we have so many questions coming in. Do you want to do
Well,
questions or
let's
we're
do
just
the
going with our
questions. If
outline?
let's give the people what they want.
Sorry, David, we're just going to off the cuff now, okay? You had no
Oh, you're
time to
good.
prepare for this.
It's all right. I wrote the other questions, so it's fine.
Okay, well that's true. That's true. Okay,
All right,
I
let's do.
want to go to Catherine's question because first of all, she put like 30 questions in here, and
I
I love them
love you,
all.
Catherine.
Yeah,
But
very, very
stop
good.
paying your customers. I don't want you to get in trouble.
Don't do it. Don't do it. So, how do you measure SEO success?
Mm,
Not only if you're doing it yourself, but if you're paying somebody else to do it, how do you know it's being successful?
beautiful question, Catherine.
For self-storage, there's only one metric that actually matters, and that's rentals. Are you getting rentals
Yes.
on your website? If you get 5 visitors and all 5 of them rent a unit in a month, fantastic. 10 times rather have that than 4,000 visitors and 3 rentals, right? And none of organic ranking, visitors, all that stuff, those are all vanity metrics. The ones that actually matter are just rentals. And now, if you're not getting any rentals on your website, that could be an SEO problem, or it could be other types of problems. But your SEO is always in service of getting more people to rent from your facility.
Mm, I love that so much.
So perfect.
I'm going
Yes.
to share a real live example here. So one of our dear clients, Gabfocus alumni, so we wrote some content for him. This was probably 2021, maybe 2022, and he started rank. He got a massive spike in traffic, and we're like, why? And so we investigated, and he was ranking for this term, free rental truck, right? No big
Really?
deal. And so, like, if you measured success of SEO by ranking well and getting a ton of traffic, he won, right? Because here he is. It's Nick Newcomb at Storage Max. He is often one, two, or three for this generic national search term. right? That
Huh.
doesn't do anything. And so what we discovered was while he got a ton of traffic to this page from this term, he got no rentals from it. Well, it just makes sense because his facilities aren't where I am. This is not a term that
Right.
really matters. We just because of the different things that we did to make his website optimize, he started ranking for a really cool term that doesn't really do anything, right? And so, David, I love that you went straight to it. The ultimate measure is, are you getting rentals, right? And so we could have sent Nick Newcomb a little report that said, yo, Nick, we 5x your web traffic and you're top 5 in all of these fancy terms. We don't, because none of that actually matters. And so it's sneaky, right? And so no, I'm not saying that companies who send you those reports are being sneaky. It's just if you're looking at vanity metrics only, it feels like you're winning when you maybe not winning. And I think David, that's probably the ultimate point that you're trying to make.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Love that. All right. You want to pick a question?
Yes. Catherine, this is your show,
Who
baby.
needs a prize today?
Girl, this is your show. Actually, honestly, if you, Garrett, will you get with Catherine later? Let's get her something. Maybe some pug socks. So Catherine, look out for an email from Garrett. All right, so can you give an example of how to perform keyword research? Ooh, David, I like this. How do you perform keyword research? This is cool. I'm going to give you 3 scenarios because I think they matters, right? Scenario 1, you're in a small town like Dandridge. Scenario 2, you're in a town like Knoxville. And then scenario 3, let's say you're downtown Los Angeles. Very different markets. Talk to me.
All right. So, a lot of the times people put more attention on keyword research than it really needs to be, right? So, that the joke Alex made earlier of like listing a whole bunch of different things. The example I always come up with is like you used to find websites that would be like, "Hey, are you looking for shoes for men or men's shoes, or potentially some shoes for adult men in size 12 or some shoes for adult men in size 13," right? That was keyword stuffing. That was, we need to have this on our website in case somebody clicks or searches it. That's not so much the case anymore. As long as you talk about what you do in a way that like is clear and understandable, which means putting the keywords in prominent places, like the header on your website, the H1, the H2, that sort of thing, you're probably going to be okay. I don't spend a whole lot of time on keyword research, especially for a place like a storage facility in Dandridge. I grew up there. I know how people talk about it. They say storage units. They say storage facilities. We don't really use mini storage, right? That's not. There are places in the country where mini storage is the preferred term. But for that one, I wouldn't worry too much about keywords. I would talk about the services you use, the services you offer in the words that the people around you use, and then throw in the town a lot because that's pretty blanket, right? That's going to work for pretty much everywhere. Now, if you wanted to go deeper, there, like for example, if you're in Knoxville, or you're slightly outside of Knoxville, you're in a little area, there are lots of tools online that you can use, like Ahrefs, SEMrush, Ubersuggest, that will let you do keyword research. Basically, what will happen is you type in a whole bunch of variations of different keywords. So self-storage. So in this case, self-storage, Knoxville, Tennessee. Storage units, Knoxville, Tennessee. Storage, Knoxville, Tennessee. Storage near me in Knoxville. Like you could try all of these and you could see the volume for all of them. And then you could pick out the ones that are highest volume or the ones that do not have an unbeatable REIT at the top, right? So if Extra Space is ranking for storage units Knoxville, Tennessee, but they're not ranking for self-storage in Knoxville, Tennessee, then maybe that's where you try to nose in to get those people. This is not something I would recommend everyone spend a lot of time on. I think unless you're really interested in it, you can take away from this that like storage units, city, state is a great way to start. Storage units near me, because like Tommy shared earlier, most of the people that go to your website are not searching they're doing storage units near me or just storage units, which if you just type in storage units, Google still translates that as a local search. So it puts the near me in there for you. Um, so as long as you are listing your services in the way that the people that you're renting to talk about them, which means if everyone around you says mini storage or some other phrase that, is not storage units, then you need to be using that. But it's going to be very hard for a keyword research tool to pick that up anyways, because those are global tools, not local tools.
Okay.
Does that answer the
like
question?
keeping it simple and just talking about what you actually do. All the things.
Yeah.
All the services you offer, whether it's climate control, you've got great security, you have a free rental truck, what all of the aspects that you have on your facility, talk about them.
Love that.
Okay.
And if you do that, Google will match you with people that are looking for those things.
Right.
In general, keyword research has so much noise in it that it's very hard to pick out what your people are talking about. I would rather operators just go with how their neighbors talk rather than try to like pick out a specific phrase that
Yeah.
they can rank for.
I'll share an example here, a real live example. So here, like David was saying, right? I didn't type storage units near me. I just typed storage units, right? And here is a real life example of how Google tries to interpret what did I mean when I typed that, right? So Google tries a few different things. The first thing it tried here was AI overview, which is a new-ish feature that Google's rolled out in the last 12 months and is really dominating search results. If you haven't seen an AI overview, here it is. Essentially, Google's using its AI to answer the question that it thinks the customer is asking. Right. And then, of course, it's like we talked about, it gives map pack results. It's giving organic results. And then also it's giving YouTube and video and Reddit results. Google right now does not really know what I want. So it's like, here's everything. Pick something, please. And then this feeds back to the algorithm. Right. But back to like content, right? So here is a handful of facilities that it found in Knoxville, and one of them it happens to be Pug Pack and this Twin Spires right here. Love this facility. I've driven by it all of my life, and finally they had a need, and now they're part of the Pug Pack. But I'll show you how Google came to this conclusion, right? So when you click on this website, Google will automatically highlight the words that it focused on and pulled from the website. So let me click on here and I'll show you. I didn't highlight all this purple text, Google did. So Google read all this text, or its crawlers read all this text, like, oh, okay, cool. This facility is talking about all these things that sound like it's related to a storage facility. Let me make this be a relevant result for someone who's in Knoxville, right? And this is down the street from our office. And if you read this content, none of it is going to be like crazy prose. It's really just telling the customer what these, like Melissa said, it's literally just saying what we offer. 24/7 video surveillance, pest control, fire sprinklers. And there's a high likelihood that everyone around them offers the same things, but their competitors aren't talking about these things, but they are. And I think that's ultimately at the end of the day what makes the big difference. And David said something that I really loved. You don't have to beat Google at the game. You just have to beat your fellow neighbors. And so these guys, because they're talking about, and they're one facility, because they're talking about all of these things and their competitors are not, Google has grouped them with some of the biggest facilities and biggest brands in Knoxville. iStorage is a REIT. Morningstar has 100 plus facilities, Extra Space, as we all know, and Mini Storage Depot is a big brand that's is a big national brand as well. But Google's like, oh, cool, look at these guys. And that's because they're talking about these things that are related to a storage unit. And so at the end of the day, keyword research, while it matters to some degree, I think, David, you said it really well. I think a lot of people overemphasize how important it actually is. And really, just talk about your stuff in language that your customers understand. And you're probably 95% of the way there. Great advice, David.
Okay, so I'm reading through these questions trying to pick out the best ones because we only have 15 minutes left, and I think there's a
Oh my
really good one
goodness.
here that has sparked actually some conversation a little bit.
Ooh.
What if people don't have Google accounts? Can they leave reviews? How do you handle it? And so then several people said, yeah, I need an answer on this too. So can we go back to reviews for just a minute and answer that piece?
Yep. David, what's the official take there?
So if they don't have a Google account, I don't. You can leave anonymous reviews. I'm actually not certain on that, Tom.
No, yeah.
Nothing,
So you
nothing at
to
all.
leave a Google review, you have to have a Google account. Now, of course, you can leave
Okay.
reviews on Yelp or other platforms, right? But for the folks who are dealing with that problem, who asked this question, or what do you know their name?
It
I'll call them
was,
out.
hang on, it was Diana. She
Diana,
started
okay.
the question.
Diana Ratliff, right? Yeah. So Diana,
Yes.
where are you? Give me your city. We're gonna do this in real time here. Give us where you're located. Because yeah, there are some customers who don't have Google reviews, and in that scenario, Columbia. All right, I know Columbia. Columbia, Missouri. So I'm gonna share my screen again. I know Columbia, right? And so storage units. Columbia, Missouri, right? And so I know Columbia because a Storage Mart has a huge presence in Columbia, 1,000+ reviews. Gateway, I don't know these guys, but 181 reviews, pretty solid. Southside, 55 reviews. A couple other Storage Smart here's, and there's a Cows with 25. So, yeah, there's another Storage Mart. So, all these people have a lot of reviews, and maybe there's a 10 Federal, we know those guys as well. Maybe there are customers who don't have a Google account, and that's fine. You can still love on them. I've had managers come up and tell me, he's like, yeah, I deal with customers who don't have a Google account, and they wanted to leave me a review so bad that I showed them how to create a Google account so they can leave me a review, which is like, that goes back to, you got to deliver like a 5-star experience, right? Which is really, really dope. Now, that said, it comes down to consistency, right? Because we can't use that as an excuse, because StorageMart isn't using that as an excuse with their 1,000+ reviews. And so even though some of our customers may not have a Google account, I would bet very good money that the vast majority, in Columbia at least, would have a review, would have a Google account. So if you have a 300 or 400 unit facility, there's a high probability that more than half of those customers do have Google accounts. And
Hmm.
if you give them a
So,
good 5-star experience, they're going to do it. Yep.
Robert
Yeah.
actually pointed out in chat, you can leave reviews without a Google account, but you have to tie your other email, and I think it might have to be a Google related property. So it ends up being kind of a hassle.
Yeah, you don't have to have
Um,
a Gmail account, but you do have to have a Google
yeah.
account. Yes. So not all
Okay. Okay.
Google. Yeah, it's one of those like little concentric circles. Not all Google accounts are Gmail accounts, but all Gmail accounts are Google accounts. And so you technically can have like a Yahoo account, but you still have to go through the process of creating a Google account to use a Google
Okay.
property. Yep. So it doesn't have to be a gmail.com, but it has to be a Google property. So yeah,
Okay.
but Robert, thanks for sharing that. And so yeah, so Diane, to your customers who may only have an AOL account or a Yahoo.com account, they can still go through the process of creating a Google account without getting a brand new email. And that article should, can guide them step by step. And if you give them a fantastic 5-star experience and they really want to do it, they'll do it. But thank you
And
for asking the question and putting your name out there.
and if they've got Apple instead, ask them to leave that review, right? You should have that a review link for that on hand too.
Hmm.
Um, Bing in particular likes to use other review sources because they don't want to give Google reviews as their main the thing that gives SEO weight to Bing results.
That's right. Yeah. And so, yeah. And then ultimately, I'm seeing in the comments here, yeah, I think Yelp is a great alternative. If this person really doesn't want to do a Google thing, right, for any given reason, I think Yelp's a great thing. And Raheem said it, it will fuel your Apple Maps ratings because Apple Maps pulls from Yelp as one of its sources. And so it increases your traffic from Apple Maps, which is far and away a lot lower than your Google Maps traffic, but it's still not irrelevant. And then, yeah, I think a third alternative would be Facebook reviews. Any review is a good review, period. But I think the thing that matters most as far as an SEO perspective goes is going to be your Google reviews. Yeah.
Well, so the other review sites are growing in importance right now because the large language models, ChatGPT and Claude and all those, they're reading everything. They're reading all of those other reviews, and they don't weight Google reviews higher. So, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been scouring through the questions. Um, Josh Parker says, I keep hearing about voice search optimization. Is there anything you need to do to optimize for voice search? Because we were actually talking about
Ooh,
alt to text
yes.
earlier, so let's talk about voice search.
So that's a good question. Voice search, it functions the same, right? It functions as if you typed it in, but the way people phrase things in voice search is very different, right? You're going to
Mm.
have a longer, more conversational question than if you have to type it out with your thumbs on your phone. So to address voice search, you don't change your approach, but you can change the way you phrase things, right? You can phrase it in a conversational way. So to target voice search, I would have a header for a part of your website, like for a little bit of text. The header could be longer. It could be like, um, are you, you could have the question, do you offer climate control or in town, right? So that's a bit longer. People are not going to be typing, where can I find climate control in town? But you could title your header that. And then if someone voice search, they'd be much more likely to say something like a full sentence with a question mark than if they were typing it out.
I feel like that would be a good use of an FAQ page of
Hmm.
like
Absolutely.
being more conversational in those questions, and that would allow you to put that information on your website in that kind of a voice kind of
Yeah,
format. So,
that's a
okay.
great way to do that. FAQs are fantastic for that. And then you can answer it in also a very personable way, which is that's for the customer, not for Google, but
Hmm.
it all works together.
Yeah.
And I know something that I just heard Josh recommend to somebody earlier today is when you're responding to your reviews online, respond back conversationally and talk up some of those things. When someone just gives you a 5 star, great service, respond back with thanks so much. We really strive to offer great customer service to all of our tenants, and make it more conversational, but you
Hmm.
can use that time to put some of those phrases in there too and make that more appealing to searches. So take advantage of the reviews that you do get.
Absolutely. No, I think they, and I'll show you actually, for folks who may not have seen this before or maybe just have not noticed, right? So I just did the same thing here, storage units near me, and you'll see Google actually pulled out and quoted reviews right here in the Google Map pack.
Nice.
And very helpful, reasonable
Hmm.
prices, clean and well. Oh, sorry, Tommy, everyone's storage bug have been exceptional. We're Google confuses us for a storage facility. We get leads for people who need a storage unit from time to time.
That's
Yep.
Uh,
awesome.
but units are eight and AC, or we'll hide that real quick. Units, so like Google will pull this out, right? And so uh, while it may not necessarily help you rank better, it will help encourage someone to click on your listing, which is better than ranking better, right? And so these are all little
Hmm.
things. And then the other thing that's really helpful for which David didn't get a chance to dive too deep into today, is for voice search specifically is a lot of the technical SEO stuff, things like structured data, schema.org. And so I think one thing that I think is really, really cool often is, and I think Melissa, you touched on it, right? Having resources on your page, right? Like FAQs, that sort of thing. One of the things that you can feed to Google, by not just having FAQs on your page, you can actually put structured data, which is it's really a fancy term for the code on your website. So when the search engine looks at your website, it's like, oh, these are FAQs. Clearly they're FAQs. It's not just a bunch of words. We're telling Google, hey, there are FAQs on this page. Please log them as such. And that's something that whoever your web person is, that's something they can do and program into your web platform. And that's just one of many types of structured data. The other cool thing about structured data is you can tell Google, hey, this particular page has prices for storage units, which is something that is important for someone who's looking for storage units, whether they're Googling with their thumb or their voice. These are great places. So there's a whole technical side of this that I'm glad we didn't dive too deep into, because a lot of times the technical side is kind of like tied with whoever you're working with on your website. And you, as the operator, often don't have a lot of control over the technical side, but it is important to ask like, hey, when it comes to structured data, what are you doing? When it comes to technical SEO, what are you doing? I think those are very valid and important questions that every operator should ask. And whoever's doing your website should have a very good answer. Because I promise you, Extra Space has good answers for those things. Public
Yep.
storage has great
Yeah.
answers to those questions. And so if you're competing in those markets, it's important that you're showing up to the party with the same tools.
So there's a question that Cheryl put on here that we have not talked about at all in relation to SEO, and that is how much it costs.
Ooh.
She says we're paying an outside company a lot of money a month to put us at the top. Would it be worth it to do this ourselves to save money? So can you speak to the expense of SEO and where they need to be focusing their dollars?
So I can't speak to like exactly dollars and cents on like how much you should pay because it really depends on where you are and who you've hired and like what the competition's like in your market. But I would say smaller operators could probably spend that money better elsewhere. Because again, like we went over and over, the getting to rank highly on the organic search is not going to bring you very many rentals. And most of the local stuff, most of the local SEO stuff is stuff you should be doing for your business by yourself anyways, right? Like unless your SEO company is out there making sure that you get reviews from every customer, uh, there's not a whole lot they can do for your local SEO. Now, if you have 50 locations across the country and there's like you offer some specialty stuff, your SEO team could, paying for that could make sense. I would just put it pretty low on the hierarchy of like where you should put your marketing money. That doesn't mean it's never a good idea, just that I would not start there.
Right. Especially if what your goal is, like she said, spending a lot of money to put them at the top. At the top of what?
Yeah,
At
for
the
what
top
keyword,
of,
in what
yeah.
area.
Yeah. And is that really applicable to you? Does it really matter? I think because that playing field has been leveled, being at the top of your map pack way more important than being top at the of the organic search. That's not a needed thing anymore in most markets. So yeah, just
Exactly.
see exactly what it is you're trying to accomplish with your money. So
No, love
okay,
that. Yeah.
awesome.
Thanks, David. I'll say the only other comment I'll share is this, right? Because we do end up working and meeting operators who clients were not end up paying thousands of dollars per facility for just SEO. And I want to be clear here. This is not inclusive of Google ads. That's a whole separate conversation, right? So like for true SEO services, I still talk to people who are literally paying $1,500, $2,000, $4,000 for SEO services. And I will draw a line and I would say that is way more than you ever need to spend on a per location basis. No, there's no amount of content that you can write per facility that's going to get you to rank better. There's no amount of backlinks, like there, and those are valid fees if you were trying to build a national brand, right? And we're not even remotely saying that SEO agencies are ripping you off. Don't get me wrong. They're delivering a service and they're probably doing the work. Our opinion and our take is that you probably don't need all of that work. I would rather you save that $1,500 and bonus your manager for getting 100 reviews because that is going to take you way further than paying some SEO person to do a lot of work for you, right? And so that's our take, and that's always been our take. That's why we don't offer like an SEO service bundle or like a SEO tier of what we offer within our web platform. We think a lot of what you need should be built into well-written content and all the technical stuff. And I would rather you save that SEO budget yeah, I love this. Grassroots marketing,
Yep.
events-based marketing, getting reviews. I think those are much smarter ways of spending your dollars than to spend a ton of money. So anyways, that's our take. We have an opinion. We've been doing this for 8 years and working with 2,000 facilities. We've seen it. And still many of my clients I don't know that they're spending all this money on SEO services until I find out. And they're like, yo, you've been paying this other company for 2 years, $1,500 a month for what? we have your, I know, like we have your website and they've never talked to us. How can they do SEO work if they've never talked to us, your website company, right? And so like, yeah, sorry, I'm going to get off my soapbox because it really grinds my gears. And
Well,
so,
it's one of those
yeah,
topics where if you aren't an expert, they throw terms at you and they say you need this in order to, and you think, oh, well, I need this. I don't know how to do SEO, so I better pay a professional that clearly knows what they're talking about because they're using all the jargon and I don't know what any of it means. So, yeah, I'm going to write you that check because I really need to make sure my rentals are coming in. And really they can name their price because you're kind of at a disadvantage. If I take my car to the mechanic and they tell me I need to change something, I'm going to say, okay,
okay.
because I don't know the difference.
Ditto.
So yeah, so that's why it is so important. Even if you are having someone else manage your SEO, you need to know those basic things that David's talked about today of what is it? What is it supposed to be accomplishing and how does it work? Or else you are very likely paying for something you don't need.
You don't need. Yeah. If you're getting someone to write you blog articles, for example, right? This is a clear, ask yourself, what is that blog article doing? And how many people actually see that blog article? And just ask that question. And it could be that it's legitimate, right? Like for
Mhm.
example, our the storage max example that I shared earlier of the free moving truck, right? Like he didn't pay for that page. It just happened to be a page that ranked well. But like
Mhm.
if he did pay for it and it was something that he paid continuously for, he should ask, like, okay, how many people see it, but also how many people rent after they see it? And does that contribute to my other pages ranking well? And I think those are the really, I won't say hard, but those are the real serious questions that owners should be asking that maybe owners don't know to ask. And it can be uncomfortable. It can be a little awkward. It can be like, like obviously you're not saying that your website or SEO company is ripping you off, but I think it's important to not push back, but challenge to make sure that, hey, am I getting the best bang for my buck? Because if not, I can spend this money elsewhere,
Right.
and not have to get a new car battery every 6 months or whatever
Well, and
the
there's a
situation is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a time and a place for all of those things. If you're fresh into a new market, you're in lease up, then some of those extra things for SEO may really be needed for you so that you can
Yeah.
get your place in the pack. Like you need to establish yourself. You need some blog posts, maybe you need some social. You need all those things to like solidify where you're standing, right? But then once you're there, a lot of those things can also kind of be pulled back on. You don't need to pay for a lot of those things once you already have your place. So,
Oh,
anyway,
love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
we've got the same soapbox, Tommy, I
Thank you for
think.
letting us preach, y'all. It really, like Melissa, I know Melissa and Josh. I mean, and we same. We do a lot of audits, and like not audit in the sense of like your tax audit, but like we do analyze a lot of businesses that are like, hey, should you do this service or not, right? And
Right.
Melissa's world, marketing and websites is part of it. Y'all audit a lot of other pieces too. Most of our audits have to do with what their Google ad spend is, what they're paying for SEO, and whether or not they should work with us is regardless. Like we'll tell you straight up what you should do, whether you choose to work with StoragePug. But a lot of times they're way overspending, and it always
Yeah.
hurts me when I see a line item of SEO services for $2,400 a month, and it's like, man, that's crazy. Now, of course, $2,400 a month across 10 facilities, not a big deal, but
Right.
for one facility hurts my heart.
Right.
And then I do want to loop back briefly because Artie, if you're still in the room, Artie said this, which I think is a really cool thing and smart thing to point out, is with all that structured data schema.org stuff, Google actually not only knows better what you do, they can showcase your facility better as well. And so I'll share my screen here. So one of the things that Google can do, and this isn't an ad, this is just an organic listing here. Google will show your price range and your reviews in the Google organic listing, as long as your website is structured accordingly. And they don't always do it. As you notice here, there's two listings for Blue Sky Wichita Falls. They chose not to do it for this one, but they did do it for this one. And they didn't give it to Sparefoot, even though Sparefoot uses the same technology here. But ultimately, they chose to do it for this one. So the idea here is you want to be, kind of make sure that your web platform is using all the tools at its disposal to make sure that Google understands what it is, so they can display your website in the best way possible. So Artie, thank you for calling that out. I think that's a great example here. Wow.
Wow.
We're We still have
Well,
25 open questions.
we do, and I
All
think my top count that I saw was 243 people on here today. I don't know if
That's
that's the highest or not, but yeah, this is a great crowd for January.
What a great
Um,
start to the year. Wow.
yeah.
So David, we're gonna wrap up. We're gonna ask you question of the week here. Let you get back to your day. Let's see here. So question of the week. What's the single most important SEO tip you'd give to any storage business? So one tip, David. I know it's hard. Single most important.
right. Fix up your GBP.
Ooh.
Like it doesn't take too long. You can do it in an afternoon. You make sure it's in good shape, make sure everything's accurate, make sure everything is up to date. If you have good photos, make sure they're there, right? If you have some details about your facility, like what you offer, make sure it's there. Make sure all of your categories and your subcategories and everything are there. Because if you don't have those right, it'll hurt you the most. It's not necessarily that doing them right will like get you 20 earners, but if you don't have them, you could easily lose out on 20. So that's the one tip. If you do anything for SEO, just double check your GBP.
Love that.
And it's free. It's
And it's
free.
And
free.
it's free. And we have a great resource. Robert put together a one-page GBP checklist. You just download that from StoragePug, go through it, say, okay, I've got that, I got that, I got that. If it's in good shape, then it only took you 2 minutes, and then
There
you
you
can start
go.
working on the other stuff.
There
It's
you
all
go.
free, y'all. Yeah, Google Business,
Yeah.
number one thing. So dear friends, David, thank you for hanging out with us today, man, and joining us for the kickoff event for 2025. How do people get a hold of you if they want more, if they have questions about SEO, content, GBP, all the above? How do people find you?
Yeah, if you have questions that we didn't get to, if you have a situation that you think could use some attention, David@storagepug.com. Happy
Easy,
to
peasy.
answer any questions or sit down with you on a Zoom or whatever needs doing. We'll get you sorted out.
Thank you, David. And
Yeah.
Garrett, behind the scenes, if you'll capture all of these questions that we didn't get to, there's still 25 open Q&A. This is awesome. We're going to definitely make sure we answer these questions in some way, shape, or form down the road, whether it's
Well,
another.
and Josh said that we would talk. He's working with Garrett to get the questions from the chat and from the Q&A because we can talk about those on the podcast in the next week or two.
Ooh,
So,
love that. So tune
yep,
in for that one. Yes,
stay
that's awesome.
tuned. Yep.
Stay tuned. That's awesome. Yeah. So that'd be great. So yeah. So Garrett, if you can just capture those for us, that'd be lovely. And that way people can get their questions answered. And then last but not least, of course, join us on our Gabfocus fans Facebook group. If you are on Facebook, you can also listen to all the past episodes on storagepug.com/resources and the official Gabfocus self-storage podcast wherever you get your podcast. What's cool about the podcast is outside of airing past episodes like today, Melissa and Josh do a lot of guest speakers that don't make it to Gabfocus, the live event. Lots of cool content. Sometimes Melissa and Josh will just do their own Gab session
Yep.
and deep dive into really cool topics, such as answering maybe some of these SEO questions. Have fun with that, y'all. And the next time you'll see us is in February. We're going to do a 2025 State of the Industry. 2024 was far and away, I think, a low demand year. I think we all had to work really hard for our leads. But that said, a lot of operators' revenue was up. So, which meant that like the bones of the business is still very strong. So now it's just like, okay, if revenue is still up, leads are down. What do we do this year? How do we compete better this year? How can we take care of our customers better this year? And how can we make sure that our businesses are thriving? So John Shang from Marcus and Millichap is going to come out and do a 2025 industry update for us. And his team, his research team is incredible. Well, John's an incredible human, just period.
Yeah.
But the Marcus and Millichap research team is incredible. And so he's got a lot of fun data, a lot of fun, cool data points to share with us. So be on the lookout for
I
that.
just love hearing him speak. He's
That
so
too.
great.
Yeah,
Because
we can
it's
just.
such hard information and he makes it fun. He's
I know.
really, really good.
Honestly,
Yeah.
he's one of
Yeah.
the very few guests that we've had on where feel like maybe for just that one episode we just do a presentation and have him present. Like let's
Yeah.
drop
Just
the
talk.
let's just just talk. We'll turn off our camera and we'll just let you talk for an hour.
Yeah.
Honestly, to me, he is one of those very special people. So, well, anyway, dear friends, we'll see y'all in a month. David, man, thank you for coming out and
Yeah.
dropping such good knowledge on
Thank
us.
y'all.
And happy SEOing out there.
SEO.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, guys. Bye, y'all.
Hi, everybody.